Hey folks, thanks so much for joining. We are still waiting for a few more attendees to trickle in, but we'll be getting going in the next minute or so. So while we're waiting to kick things off, feel free to just drop in the chat who you are, where you're joining from, and maybe one thing you're hoping to get out of today.
Yeah, and you've got Kai Gogol here, James Hansa. We're joining from sunny-ish San Francisco.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
Excited for you all to join. And yeah, we'll get started in a little bit here.
Perfect. So I think we're about ready to kick things off.
Let's do it. So hi, everyone. I'm Kai Gogol, CTO and co-founder here at Ironclad. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, James Hansa. And you're here for the Getting to Know Ironclad AI webinar. So today we're going to go through a product deep dive on some of the newest AI capabilities that Ironclad has to offer. So if you're here to get to know Ironclad AI better, if you're here to watch a couple of product demonstrations, then you're in the right place. If you're not, then you're still welcome to stick around. I think it'll be great. But maybe we can kick it off by kind of doing some introductions. James, you want to kind of lead off?
Perfect. So I'm James. I'm our Director of Solution Strategy here at Ironclad. I've been here for about 5 years. And I can say with 100% confidence, this summer's series of AI releases has been the most exciting product releases I've been a part of in my 5 years working with customers at Ironclad. So really thrilled to share with you all today what our team has been working so hard at to get out to our customers.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm Kai. As I said, I'm the CTO and co-founder here at Ironclad. A bit about my background. Before starting Ironclad, I was at a company called Palantir, working on big data analysis for government technology. And then before that, I did my undergraduate and master's work at MIT in computer science and physics. Fast forward to today, I serve on Ironclad's executive team, where my responsibilities include everything from road tripping down the California coastline with my buddy Chris Young to leading our AI strategy. So like James, I think this is probably my favorite set of features that have come out in the past many years now. And we're super excited to share those with you today. So just a couple of housekeeping items. Please use the chat. We have a number of awesome moderators in the chat to answer any questions you have. And in terms of structure, we're going to talk about we're going to go on into 3 separate product deep dives. So stay tuned for each of those. But maybe before we start with that, at Ironclad, we like to start by stating the intent. It's one of our values. And so maybe we can talk a bit about our intent for the webinar and what we hope the audience will get out of this. Do you want to lead off there?
Yeah, so for me, I think there's really one litmus test for any type of AI product announcement. And that is, will this change how you do your job and make your day-to-day job better? I think there are lots of splashy demos out there. There's lots of great marketing content. But the test I always apply when I'm talking to a customer, when I'm seeing a demo, is will this change my day-to-day? And we really hope we can prove that to you today, that we've delivered features that are not just amazing from a technical underpinning, but really empowering to how our customers think about doing their jobs, from everything as mundane as reviewing an NDA through things as major as preparing for an M&A event. How about you, Kai?
Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better, actually. Pretty similar to you. I think what I'd love for you all to get from this is twofold. First, understand that Ironclad AI is not just AI bolted onto some system, but it's actually woven deeply into the fabric of the platform. And second, and kind of a corollary of this, is to get the most value out of Ironclad AI. It's not going to be about thinking about what tasks you have humans doing right now that AI is just going to replace, but actually about thinking about how you're going to use the system as a person, how you and your teammates are going to use it to become better at what you do. How are you going to use AI-assisted review to kind of have a co-pilot in this artificial intelligence to your decision maker as a human in the driver's seat? How are you going to deliver insights from your contract data to the business much more quickly, much more accurately by leveraging the data extracted by Ironclad AI. So really excited to dive into that, and hopefully we can deliver on those intents in the next few minutes. But before we talk about the future in Ironclad AI, maybe we can talk about the past and a little bit about the pre-Ironclad AI world. And James, you have an awesome perspective on this, given that before Ironclad, you were actually working in the industry, working at a customer Dropbox. Maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so I started my career as a paralegal, and I was the NDA paralegal. So I had a physical checklist of everything in our NDAs that we could and couldn't accept. And my job was NDAs would come into review. I'd have my checklist on one monitor. I'd have the NDA on another. And I was just a human scanning back and forth between the two, dropping in Microsoft Word comment bubbles. And then I'd tee that up to an attorney, and they would then process the red lines to send back. And this was a reasonably effective way to run a legal department at the time, but obviously really human in the loop. And one thing that I'm just thrilled about is we've taken what I think of as kind of that right way to augment attorneys, but rebuilt what I was doing as, basically a human robot as a paralegal with AI front and center. And that's the first thing that we'll be showing you today with our AI playbooks, what we think of as guided review, guided negotiation. So that's story number one, that, very much a pre-AI world. And then story number two was in that role, my first time kind of dipping my toes into the AI waters. We did buy an AI contract extraction product. That product will go unnamed, but one of the things that product touted was custom trained AI models off your contracts. And that sounded really cool at the time. And what we realized when we got into implementation, I thought training an AI would be this, fun, interactive process, like training a dog, like you have this beautiful relationship. What it really turned into was us painstakingly labeling contracts manually and sending Excel files back and forth with the vendor and just really trying to fine tune in these AI models from scratch. And it's the kind of thing, it takes months and months and months to get right. So one thing that I'm really excited about that we're going to show today at Ironclad is our pre-built, pre-trained models that are available out of the box for our customers. So really very different experience for our customers today. The first thing that you do when you sign into your Ironclad account is you can hit import, pull in tens of thousands of contracts, and no need to go through that painstaking model training process. So kind of two things about the before times that have really stood out to me and things I'm excited to show how we're taking a different approach here at Ironclad. So with that, I think, we've advertised this as a product deep dive, so let's get into it. And we're going to show our first demo, which is a walkthrough of Ironclad's AI-powered playbooks for contract negotiation. So we'll go ahead and get the demo rolling.
Off with a walkthrough of using AI-powered playbooks to review a third-party vendor MSA. This is something that we hear from so many of our customers, that their legal teams are just slammed with the amount of software purchasing their companies are doing, with every department buying dozens and dozens of different specialized best-of-breed SaaS products. And for the legal team, this is complex because these are often high-risk, complicated MSAs to review, and there's a lot of substantive legal issues to get through. So we're going to highlight how you can use playbooks to dramatically expedite the review of these types of third-party vendor MSAs. So here, as a business person, I've just uploaded my vendor MSA, filled out some preliminary information for the purchase I want to make, and I go ahead and hit submit. And what this will do is kick off my Ironclad workflow with all of my traditional legal review, compliance review, etc., but augment that review with a clause-based breakdown of the agreement using AI playbooks. So now, coming in as the member of the legal team, or perhaps a procurement manager reviewing the first pass of this vendor MSA, I can navigate directly here to my playbook within Ironclad. And so what this playbook allows me to do is get a first pass breakdown in a matter of seconds of what is in this agreement and how does it relate to our standard policies. So for example, the first flag I'm going to see here is that we have an unacceptable jurisdiction for governing law. So if I click into this, I'll see that I'm taken directly to the section, and this agreement is currently for the state of Colorado, which is not a governing law that we can work with. If I wanted to get an exception approved for this, I could reach out to Dave, but in this case, I want to push back here on my vendor. So we'll see Colorado is unacceptable. And I've got my pre-built in-house menu of our go-to fallbacks. So in this case, our standard pushback is going to be California law. And it's just a matter of hitting this to swap in my standard language. And so when I think about the legal departments that I've worked in, what I hear from our customers, this is something that a lot of legal departments do. They keep a separate file of all of their good, better, best language. Maybe it's an annotated Microsoft Word doc with bubbles everywhere. Maybe it's an Excel spreadsheet with columns and rows. But it's the kind of thing that can be a little bit unwieldy when you're trying to negotiate a deal and move fast at the end of the quarter. So what this does is puts all of those playbooks, all of that tribal knowledge that your legal department has built up over the course of years, right in context while you're negotiating. And instead of copy pasting and juggling versions, it's a single click to swap in that language. Moving on a bit further, let's think about something like a non-solicit. So in this case, instead of saying, hey, we prefer New York or we prefer California, what we're saying is, hey, we do not want our vendors to be able to exert a non-solicit right against us. If we want to poach someone from a vendor, we can, and we're not okay with non-solicits in vendor contracts. So if I click here, you'll see that I'm actually the approver for this. So maybe this is a vendor where we're not worried about this. It's not worth the fight. We want to focus our negotiation on more substantive issues. I could just go ahead and hit approve, or alternatively, using Ironclad's editor, I can just strike this entire provision right here. Don't need to download it to Microsoft Word. I can do that all in app within Ironclad. And when I navigate back to our playbook, we should see in a moment that we've automatically removed that flag because that non-solicit is no longer within the agreement. So something that you'll pick up here is that we are rerunning the AI constantly as you negotiate. So you can think of this as a real-time checklist, almost like that seasoned attorney looking in over your shoulder and saying, yep, that looks right. Good job there. That was the right nudge. Moving down here, we can see that in addition to our built-out playbook, we have all of these other clauses that Ironclad has picked up that we could build playbook policies around. So for example, I know when I'm reviewing a SaaS agreement, normally the first place I go is the limitation of liability to understand what is our overall exposure here. So going directly to this section, you could build out robust company policies for different types of SaaS vendors on what are your fallback positions for limitation of liability and who do you need to go to for exceptions. In terms of who's using this functionality, obviously we're seeing legal teams really love using this. It's great for things like onboarding a new attorney and having them quickly understand how your department operates. But we're also hearing great feedback from teams like procurement that often sit in front of legal as the frontline review and tee up the main substantive issues for the legal team. And we're hearing from procurement professionals who love how this lets them really kind of be a trusted partner to their legal team, do the first pass of the agreement within legal provided guardrails, then partner with their attorney colleagues on the legal team to drive into the really substantive legal issues once procurement has basically really cleared out the underbrush of the agreement and enabled both teams to do what they're best at. So this is the experience of a negotiator. And one thing that we love about this feature is beyond using it, it's also really easy to set up. So I'm going to change gears here and I'm going to navigate to an administrative part of our product called Workflow Designer, which is where you build out these Ironclad workflows. And something that we've heard is that a lot of this clause library type functionality out there in the market can be very powerful once it's implemented, but in other solutions, it can be a bit of a bear to implement, often requiring specialist Word plugins and just a little bit clunky to get up and running. We've built our playbooks administration directly here within Workflow Designer. So for my software procurement form, I can navigate to my playbook here and I'll see all those same clauses and the rule engine that's powering them built here within Ironclad. And what's great about this is we really believe playbooks shouldn't be static. As your business grows, you're going to have more leverage and you're going to have a different risk tolerance. So these playbooks should be always changing. Similarly, imagine if you expand into a new region, you'll need to change your preferences for things like governing law to fit the new countries that you're operating in. So the beauty of this is not only are they really easy to use as an end user, someone negotiating agreements, for the administrators of the system, like the legal ops team or commercial counsel, who are thinking through these policies, you can constantly keep this up to date. It's really low lift to administer, and you can make sure that the playbook that people are seeing is always the state of the art for how your team likes to negotiate deals. So like I said, this one is near and dear to my heart as a former paralegal. I feel like this is a lot of what I used to do manually, painstakingly, packaged up into a really beautiful solution. And it's something that we're already hearing amazing stories from customers on about how much it is speeding up their legal departments and allowing folks to focus on the most substantive, high value, complex work where their skills are most needed. So with that, we're going to dive back into the discussion. Excited to show some more in a moment.
Great. Well, Kai and I were following along the chat with some big smiles on our faces. Loved hearing that some of the fellow former NDA paralegals out there are seeing the promise of this. So thanks for all the great feedback and keep the questions coming. So we started with a little bit about the past. Now we'd like to get into the present. And Kai, I would love, as our CTO and beyond being the technical leader, the person who really wrote a lot of the code hands-on for this functionality, how does this work? And I know that you have multiple degrees from MIT, so if you get too deep, I will pull you back out. But I'd love kind of your technical perspective on what's going on under the hood here and really what makes Ironclad AI different from a technical perspective.
Yeah, appreciate that. And yes, I may go a little too deep here, so let's see how this goes. Yeah, mostly true. I am like a very hands-on CTO, I guess, have written a bunch of the code, but these features that you just saw that you're about to see are incredibly complex. So it takes a village, and I feel honored and privileged to work with an awesome team on them. But the way I think about how it all fits together is you have on the AI model side, what we're doing here is we are applying the best, most recent natural language processing techniques. So these are things like transformer models, BERT and BERT variants, and we're taking the best in class that natural language processing has to offer today, and we're combining it with a proprietary data set of labeled data about contracts. So this proprietary data set is a combination of open source contract data that's available, but also some kind of proprietary in-house Ironclad special sauce, where you have labels like the answers to questions like what type of obscure clause is this, where in this contract is something as simple as the agreement date or counterparty name. And we feed this proprietary data set into these transformer BERT variant models, producing a model that can predict things. The other part of this is kind of transformer models as a whole, which are a fairly recent development in AI. And the best analogy I have for this is it's a little bit how you would train someone to review a contract. You're probably not taking a newborn child who has no idea about the English language and giving them contracts examples to like pick out. Instead, you're probably taking a college graduate who's shown proficiency in understanding the English language and showing them contracts and teaching them how to interpret these contracts. And that's a similar idea to the transformer model and BERT and the BERT variants, where you've trained these AI systems on the entirety of digital English language. And then you're taking it one step further and training them on contract-specific concepts. So that's one part of it, and that's how Ironclad AI is fielding the best-in-class AI for contracts. But there's another incredibly big part of this, which is making sure that you're weaving that AI directly into the product. I think this is the second part of what makes Ironclad AI really different, is that it's really deeply woven into the experience. And to do that, the teams have been working incredibly closely with our customers and users to try to understand their workflows, to try to understand how AI is going to bring the most leverage to those workflows. And kind of to that ease of use comes from that iterative process with our customers, with our users. And I think one great example of this was actually Chris Gunn at One Medical, who I had the opportunity to talk to during SDC. And he was telling a story about how One Medical was able to import all of their contracts and get a sense of how much they were spending, get a sense of like where their biggest contractual obligations were. But then he was able to actually query that data through repository and advanced search. And when I asked him how he figured out how to do that, did he use Ironclad Academy? Did he use our help center? He was just like, no, like I just started using it. It was yeah. So that kind of ease of use is not something that just happens. It happens because we iterate so closely with our customers and with our users, and bring together AI and human intelligence to create something greater than the sum of its parts.
Awesome. So a few more technical questions to bounce off of you. When I think about other analogs in the AI space, I think the classic one is self-driving cars. And something I've heard from friends who have Teslas that they love is that basically every month the autopilot in their Tesla gets better. So the car that they bought 3 years ago is kind of this self-improving thing, just sitting in their driveway and getting better every day when they turn the key. Or you probably don't turn a key in a Tesla, but when you hit the start button. And I'd love to understand, how are we thinking about that idea of kind of always improving, like self-reinforcing AI? For a customer who maybe got started with Smart Import 6 months ago, well, what will their experience look like, not just on day one, but years down the line as an Ironclad customer?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, like Teslas or Rivians or other types of modern cars and things, the Ironclad AI system is always improving. We're adding more clauses that we recognize, more properties that are being extracted. We're improving the accuracy of the existing properties and clauses. And as a customer using it, you're going to see that improvement and you're going to benefit from that improvement. Even if you signed on a year ago, 2 years ago, the improvements that happen today are going to apply to your data immediately. So it also takes a village to make this happen. James, you had the firsthand experience of kind of trying to do this with custom AI models. It is really hard to field a good contract property extractor. And we have a massive amount of teammates working every day to make sure that we're increasing the accuracy on our existing predictions. We're expanding the breadth of those predictions. And we've made a ton of progress just in the last year, I'd say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, 2 more questions that I think might be annoying for a computer scientist. But question number 1 that I hear from customers all the time: how accurate is it? And I know there's 1,000 ways to answer that, but I'm going to push you to give me the simple and direct one. And then question number 2, how much stuff can I put in it? Is there a limit? When will I break this thing? So I'd love to hear your engineer's take on those 2 questions.
All right. You said simple. So, and then you said engineer's take. Accuracy levels, we're seeing 90% plus accuracy for every one of the contract clauses and properties that we're extracting. And then limit, there is no limit. The AI can process huge amounts of data at the same time in parallel. So 90% plus for every property, no limit on the volume.
Love it. Well, before we get into the demo, I just want to reinforce, obviously we went a little deep technically there. I think the key thing Kai touched on was, despite the really deep technical foundation, the brilliant engineers we have working on this, we have really prioritized ease of use. And I think it is easy when you hear about AI, it can sound like this is something only for the early adopter crowd, that you need to be at the forefront of legal tech to be able to kind of start using this technology. And I think the demo that we're going to show in a moment will really dispel that notion. But I also just see that talking to customers. One of my favorite customers that I've worked with recently is a really high-end luxury real estate brokerage. And they have extremely talented attorneys who are negotiating, mega multi-million-dollar real estate transactions. And that world of the law is still a little bit more traditional in some ways. You're still seeing red lines coming back with handwritten comments in the margins. You're not seeing as much e-signature. But for their team, Smart Import was really just an incredible way to leapfrog into the future. And what I loved about it wasn't also just ease of use for the legal team. It was ease of use for COOs, executive operations officers, CFOs, kind of folks across the business who need to understand what's in their contracts, not just to run the legal department, but to run the whole business, to run a forecast, to understand where to make future investments. So we really hope that ease of use across the business comes through in the demo. that we're gonna get going right about now. So enjoy watching Kai walk you through Smart Import.
Ironclad AI makes searching and organizing your contracts data as easy as drag and dropping files into the Ironclad repository. Once you've dragged and dropped all your files in, they'll be uploaded to the Ironclad repository, and Ironclad AI will run across each of the contracts, picking out key pieces of information and identifying key clauses for you to better understand the terms of your contractual agreements. The AI runs in seconds and picks out key information like counterparty name, agreement date, contract value, agreement term, and renewal information, and is immediately searchable and reportable. No coffee break, no 48-hour SLA, just contracts drag and dropped into your repository and results reportable and searchable immediately. The other thing that Ironclad AI is doing is OCRing all of your PDF agreements, whether or not they have text embedded in them, and no matter how bad the quality of the scan. As you can see here, we've pulled out a master services agreement that's clearly been printed out, scanned, and has coffee stains all over it. Despite this, Ironclad AI is able to read and interpret this contract, pulling out things like the agreement date, counterparty address, counterparty name, and even some crazy written text. So handwritten text, you can see here we have Chief Beep Boop Officer as the title for this signer. Clearly a title that Ironclad AI has never seen before, and also one that's been handwritten as opposed to typed out. On top of this, Ironclad AI is able to detect several smart clauses, so you can quickly jump to the part of the agreement that you're looking for, whether it's intellectual property, limitation of liability. All of this helps you understand your contracts more quickly and accelerates your understanding of the contract with Ironclad AI. On top of that, with the contract text full text searchable, you can run some really powerful queries. So let's say we want to understand more about the contract with contract text. We can actually jump in here and use advanced search capabilities to craft custom queries about the language in the contract. So you can run search queries that have and or Boolean operations that kind of group operations together, or use connectors, proximity or ordered connectors to kind of say this term within this amount of text of this term. So for example, we can look up California law. And if we do that, we'll see we pull a very broad swath of contracts that have either the term California or law. But if we're actually looking for just the agreements with California governing law, you'll notice this is too broad because we have the laws of England and Wales here. We have the laws of the state of New York here. So maybe we actually want to look only for agreements with California within 25 words of the word law. And immediately you can see we've honed in on the 3 contracts with California as governing law. Now, this is a bit of a contrived example because California is, and governing law is one of the pieces of data that Ironclad AI is able to automatically extract. But you can extend this idea to many other things. And this is part of what we're excited about in terms of bringing the power of artificial intelligence with Ironclad AI and human intelligence in these crafted queries to create something that's better than the sum of its parts. To demonstrate this further, let's put our California law query back in. And you'll see across all of our contracts, we're getting more hits, but we can actually combine this with structured metadata. So we'll throw in a structured search term for all agreements after April 1st of 2022. And as you can see here, we're pulling back those two of the contracts that we imported and using this advanced search query to use that crafted search syntax from the human intelligence. And we're combining it with structured information that we pulled out using Ironclad AI as part of Smart Import. So again, bringing together the artificial intelligence, the power of artificial intelligence with Ironclad AI, and the power of human intelligence harnessed through advanced text search capabilities.
All right, so Smart Import, it's really all about understanding the past, understanding your executed contracts. And we want to kind of make a bit of a pivot here and talk a bit about the future. So we've made a real focus on showing everything that customers are using today in the product, but we thought it could be fun to pontificate a little bit about where this might be going, where the industry might be going, and frankly, the kind of stuff that our team loves nerding out about at team happy hours when we're thinking about what the future of the product could be. So Kai, I'd love to hear just kind of one or two sci-fi ideas you might have about the future of AI and the law and kind of what could be coming for contract AI.
Yeah. Well, maybe before getting right into the sci-fi, we can talk about what's coming immediately. So we're seeing NER, which is named entity recognition, otherwise known as extracting the counterparty name, the contract value. We've seen huge advances in that and AI's capabilities there. So expect more there, expect more properties, expect higher accuracies around those properties, like the ones you saw in the demo. And then the other thing that I think Ironclad AI is getting particularly good at that I'm really excited about is understanding how different documents actually are very similar. And so these might be documents on the same templates. These might be documents that are actually different versions of one another. And I think we're seeing internally Ironclad AI doing incredible jobs kind of automating parts of what you would expect, like keeping track of data from one version to the next, or trying to understand how your sales agreements off of the same template are different or the same. So it's kind of like the near future, but sci-fi. I mean, you and I have talked before about the war of the negotiation bots and like what happens when Ironclad AI is being used on one side of negotiation and on the other side of the negotiation. How does the Ironclad AI kind of inform both sides of that negotiation? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I love that because the way I think about that is let the robots fight out the first round of negotiations that are basically rote. Let the robots sort out governing law. Let them sort out auto renew. And what I think of as kind of the company policy stuff, and then bring in the really focused attorney time to negotiate the limitation of liability, to negotiate the indemnity. So I love that from an efficiency perspective. I think of it as kind of clearing out some of the low-hanging fruit of a negotiation and then having humans really do what they do best. So that one's really exciting to me. The other kind of futuristic thing that I've been thinking about is obviously we showed with playbooks this idea of kind of almost what I think of as coaching AI that gives you nudges while you're doing your job. And I think there's a next level with that where we have a lot of really amazing data about the process of contracts. So how often does something take? How long will it sit with a counterparty? How long will it sit with your internal CFO? And something that I loved when I was working in an in-house legal department was these veteran attorneys who kind of had this sixth sense where they'd look at something and they'd say like, hey, you can try to put that in, but it's going to add 2 weeks to the deal cycle time. And, our CFO is going to not get around to looking at it until the end of the week. So if you just draft it a little bit differently, we'll get most of the intent, we'll get 90% of the value without kind of kicking off this hornet's nest of review and delay. And it really felt like a sixth sense at the time. But I think there's an amazing ability to have AI nudges that not only tell you what is the right clause, but what business impact will this drive. So how much longer will this make the deal take? And I think about that as someone who works with our sales team, having that at the end of the quarter. I hate to use this term, but the ability to kind of nudge, potential cases of over lawyering to make sure that you're protecting the company, but not overdoing it and doing things that will gobble up time. I think that is really cool and really exciting.
Yeah. And I think something, part of that future is already here today, right? Because in order to get those insights about how does this change affect the cycle time? How does it affect my ability to complete a contract? You need to collect that data. And something that we didn't really see in your amazing playbooks demo was actually that the AI is constantly rerunning on new versions of the document and keeping track of key properties in that document in real time, and like triggering rules and things like that, but also keeping track of that data for analysis after the fact and insights and things like that.
Yeah. Well, Kai and I could talk about the future and all the cool stuff we want to build together probably for the rest of the webinar. But I'd love to kind of bring it back. And I said at the outset that my goal for this was to show you how AI can help you do your job differently. And I'm laughing thinking about a conversation I had with a customer a couple months ago where he said to me, James, I've got a big problem. I've got chart envy. I show up to these exec meetings, I show up to these board meetings, and our CFO, she has amazing charts. Our head of sales, he has amazing charts. Marketing has these beautiful charts. But I show up as the head of legal and I've got nothing. I just say we're really busy and we're working really hard. And that has been tough for a lot of legal teams for a long time. So the final thing that we're going to show is once you have all of your contracts flowing through AI playbooks, once you have all of your legacy contracts in your repository through Smart Import, making sense of all of that data with insights, with dashboards, with reporting, with visualizations, and really being able to tell a story about what's happening in your contracts and have that go beyond just informing how you run your legal department and really be a leading indicator for how to run your business. So with that, we're going to wrap things up with our final demo, which is going to be a deep dive on Ironclad Insights, our in-product business intelligence and dashboarding tool. So with that, let's kick that off and show folks some of the exciting new insights functionality.
Great. So as Kai just showed us with Smart Import, it is really an incredible way to get tens of thousands of agreements rapidly into the repository, make them full text searchable, and pull out key terms. But as we said at the beginning of this session, the real goal for AI shouldn't be just to organize things. It should be to actually change how you and your colleagues do your jobs every single day. So I want to build on that by showing you some of the exciting new functionality that we've built out to further visualize and make your repository data actionable. So the first thing I want to highlight here is our new parent-child functionality. So in the repository, I can navigate to a given agreement, and I'll see that I can visualize the entire contract family. As we know when we talk to customers, a lot of our customers who have thousands of agreements sitting in a filing cabinet or sitting in cloud storage also have a complex web of relationships between those agreements. SOWs going into the dozens, amendments that modify amendments that modify amendments. And a key part as you import that data is also understanding the relationships and which agreements modify each other, which ones are related. So for example, here we can see that we have a parent agreement with the enterprise services parent company, as well as independent order forms with several subsidiaries. And understanding that roll-up is really key when we do this AI-powered import. Moving beyond visualizing this, we also have our Insights product. And Insights has really been a huge breakthrough for Ironclad. What we've been hearing from legal teams for years is that most business analytics in the legal space are really manually cobbled together, often by stressed out legal team members at the end of the quarter when they're asked by their GC to pull together a metrics review, maybe for a board meeting or for another key executive meeting. So the key goal with Insights is to have always on analytics within the product. So you can log in any moment of the day and get a 30,000 foot view of your business tailored to what matters most to you. So for example, here we have a really common chart that our customers love, which is understanding in progress workflows and who on the legal team is working on them. This is great for load balancing work across the legal team. It's fantastic if you hire a new attorney and you want to get a pulse on how they're ramping. And it's even great for things, seemingly as mundane as planning for a vacation or some leave, and really understanding how much work can you have on your plate, how much more can you take on before you go out of office. Going a bit deeper, we also love visualizing not just who on legal is busy, but where the work is coming from. So this is showing us our most active requesters over time, or what I've had one customer call the frequent flyers list. And this can tell you a couple things about your business. On one hand, this could be very correlated with who your top performers are. On the sales side, whoever's sending you the most MSAs and order forms most likely is also one of your most profitable, high-performing salespeople. However, there could also be deeper trends here that are worth digging into. For example, are you seeing one group of marketers, for example, sending you a lot more NDAs that wind up being negotiated? And maybe it's that a team that you could educate on your ClickWrap NDA to reduce the number of high volume legal in the loop requests they're sending. Similarly, one thing that we're really excited about with Insights is marrying the legal team's data with deeper business questions that are, things that are at the CEO level or board level. So, for example, it's really interesting to start marrying up data that you have about legal negotiations, which deals are in flight and when, with data coming from Salesforce about which sales segments the deals are in. So if you look at this, for example, we'll see that over the summer, our mid-market sales segment has been taking off. Our enterprise and general business segments are kind of growing at a nice linear clip, but this mid-market chart is just through the roof. And what's great is in legal, you are the early indicator. You are in some ways the canary that can see, wow, we are negotiating a lot of deals. And when these close, we're going to need customer success ready to go to service these customers. One thing that's really critical to us for Insights that we heard from so many legal teams is this needs to be something that any attorney can use. It needs to be something that you do not need a PhD in data science to create some visualizations. So to highlight that, I'd love to go through just building one together. So something that I find really interesting is thinking about which gives our sales team is giving in a negotiation before legal is brought into the fold. So these are called special terms. These might be things like a renewal price lock, maybe exchanging a discount for a case study. And it's what I think of as the first volley of negotiations. So let's go ahead and build out a chart to see what types of things we're giving away and then really drill down on that. So I can go ahead here and create a chart. You'll see that we have a plethora of pre-built charts, but I'm going to go ahead and do something custom. Perfect. So the first thing that I want to decide is what exactly am I reporting on? So in this case, I want to report on my special terms. And now I want to go a bit deeper. So this is showing which special terms are being used and when. But at this level, I can't do a ton with this quite yet. So now I'm going to select filters here. And with this filter, I really want to zero in on the deals that are in commit. So I'm going to search by my sales stage. I believe that is forecast category. And Ironclad will show me that there's about 180 deals in commit. And those are the ones that I really care about. I don't necessarily care about the things that are in early stage pipeline. I want to know what's going to close in the next couple months and what is our sales team proactively giving to customers. This starts to sharpen it. And then let's go one deeper. I really want to focus on the big deals here. So I'm going to filter this further by total contract value over, let's call it 500K. Perfect. So zooming out here, I can see a few interesting trends. Number one is we are giving away a lot of renewal price locks. And, in different times, maybe that'd be okay. That's a good thing to do to get a deal done sometimes. But something that I would take away from this is with what's going on with inflation right now, renewal price locks is something that's going to make my CFO really on edge. So my cue for that might be it's time to do a sales training and maybe make sure that we're a little bit more disciplined on when we give that away. Similarly, I think it's fascinating to dig into how often we're asking for customer logo rights in exchange. So I feel a little bit better about this column where there's a give and a get in the special terms. And so that's telling me that over 500K for our most important customers, the customers that make the best case studies, we are able to start getting some special terms and some logo rights, which is really valuable for our marketing team. Of course, when it comes to using this data, if I want to share this with my CFO and I want to get her view on this analysis, I have a few options. Of course, I can change how the chart is formatted. And then when it comes to exporting this, just a matter of hitting save. I could share this link directly with my CFO. or it's so easy to export this, drop it in a PowerPoint presentation, in an email, etc. Finally, the piece that I love, if I want to drill deeper and I really want to understand what are these 11 deals, and I want to look at them, which attorneys are working on them, which salespeople, I can just click in here, view workflows and dashboard, and that'll give me a real-time drill down into these active deals, who's negotiating them, and what's going on, so I can deepen my analysis. So we're extremely excited about insights. We are already seeing customers amaze us and surprise us in the insights they're deriving from their contracts. And we really think this is a breakthrough of having that foundational AI that tells you what's going on in your business, then combining it with walk-up usable business intelligence so you can start solving problems for your company. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, awesome insights demo. And before I let James wrap with final thoughts, I wanted to just start by thanking everyone. Thank you all for attending this webinar and getting to know Ironclad AI a little bit better with all of us. Also, thank you to all the customers who have left so much amazing feedback and iterated with us to create something truly special here. And finally, it's not just me and James on this webinar. It takes a village behind the scenes. So I want to thank everyone who's especially been helping with this webinar off camera. So thank you, Michelle, Tina, Nick, and Jen for all that you've done for this. James, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I just think, above all, I hope our excitement shines through. We are all at Ironclad really fired up about this. And if you're excited too and you want to learn more, please just reach out. We'd love to run a custom demo with you and show you what this could look like for you and your business. So thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you for the great questions in the chat, and looking forward to showing this all to you in your environments with your stuff. Thank you all so much for the time today.